it's Sabrina from the Comba family, and today we are going to talk about cultural differences and adjustments that I've had to make from moving to America, which is where I'm from, to living currently in Kenya. I am married to a Kenyan, if this is your first time on this channel. So we have a family of me, an American, also my daughter, who's 8 years old, Safari, she is American, and then my husband, who is Kenyan, and our 9-year-old daughter, who is also Kenyan. So we have a very interesting dynamic in our household and in our family in general. So there are some things that we kind of have to adjust to and maybe come to a compromise when it comes to our cultures. This is something that takes a long time to figure out, and sometimes arguments happen and we're still just trying to get through it. So we are definitely trying to learn each other and trying to be more understanding of each other's culture. Hopefully we will go to America in the near future so that my husband can kind of get the perspective of where I come from, just as I've gotten the perspective of where he comes from, but we will come back. We don't want to live in America full term or long term. Okay, so I have 5 things here on my list of different adjustments that I've had to make culturally since being here in Kenya. So the first one is one that we've definitely discussed often, and that's because my husband has a large family and they are so interconnected and very close with each other, whether it be cousins, aunts, uncles, great-grandmas, all of these things, they are very close. So when you have a large family, more people, unfortunately, die at a rapid rate because there are just more people there to die, if that makes sense. Trying to be respectful here. So we have had to go to 2 burials since we have been here, and then since I have been talking to my husband, which was like a year and a half before I moved here, he went to 2 or 3 other burials. And then he recently, unfortunately, his grandma died, so he had to go back to the village for that burial, and we didn't go with him. He just went by himself for that one. So being that there's 5 or 6 burials in the past like 2 years that we have dealt with as a family, we kind of have experience, or I have experience on how these things are different compared to America. So in regards to funerals or burials, as they call them here, everyone gives contributions, and you will see this brought up often in this video. Contributions is where somebody gives about $9-10 usually, and if it's somebody closer to them, they give more. If it's somebody not as close to them, it's usually around the $10 mark. And the person in charge of this situation, the burial, they collect this money and see how much money they have when it comes close to the event, and thus what they can do with that money, right? So that is something that is very different from America in the sense that for funerals, we usually, the closest people to the person, so the person dies, their children will pay what they can, or they will put it on credit, honestly, since that's such a common thing in America, you know, but it's not really contributions from the community and things like that. So that is a very different thing compared to America. And honestly, I think it is cool in the sense that this person doesn't have to come up with a large lump sum for a marriage or a funeral or anything like that. They get this help from the community, and then they help the community for somebody else's next event, you know? I think that's cool when it is done equally and fairly. And unfortunately, even in a community like this where people are really close, it's still not done fairly. And that is something that I have a hard time wrapping my mind around, you know, like, why are we going to have a sense of community and help this person out, expecting that person to help us out when that's really not the case? And you know that this person never contributes to anybody's event or situation, you know? So that is something that I struggle with here, giving contributions when, you know, if we have an event, they're not going to contribute because they think that we just have hella money because I'm white. So that's an issue that I have. And also with being sick. So when you have a sick family member here, you also give contributions so that you could send that person to the hospital or get the medical treatment that they need, right? And I understand this and support it in certain ways. For example, if somebody has a heart attack or somebody has a stroke and they're in their 50s, 60s, or younger, absolutely give those contributions and make sure that that person gets to the hospital so that we could save their life, right? They still have a lot of life to live. But if it's a situation where somebody is 90 something years old, there is not much you can do for that person, you know? Like, besides try to make them the most comfortable or give them the foods that they enjoy or things like that, you know? Like, if they want to smoke, let them smoke, you know? Like, some people would disagree with me on that, but as an old person, let them do what they want to do. We are not designed to live forever, you know? So I think that, in my opinion, Safari, I'm making a video. Safari, I'm making a video. In my opinion, it is not the smartest idea to spend so much money, especially when people here are dying of hunger, literally. So it's not the best idea to spend so much money to take this person to the hospital when you know that they are not going to live much longer. Just give them peace in the life that they have left to live, you know? And that is always my opinion on things, regardless of if this was a close family member to me or not. Let's talk about my dad. If my dad was in a situation where he was going to die. He was in his mid-90s and he was going to die. There was nothing else that you could do to help him. I would buy him cigarettes, I would buy him all of the fatty foods that he wanted, and I would cook them for him. Why? Because I want him to be happy in the time that he has left. And I think that is the most important. But here, it just seems like, in my opinion, the people are selfish when it comes to the elderly. They want, of course, with the best of intentions, they love that person and they want that person to live as long as possible, you know, which is only natural. But they want to do so at the expense of that person's comfort. You know, I have seen people here that are really struggling and they are dying, but people still want to take them to the hospital and give them this medicine and do this because this might help them. They are going to die. And I know death is something that is very hard for a lot of people to process and discuss, especially when it's close family members. But I personally think that even if it was my father, I would make him the most comfortable that I could until his time came. You know, I would spend time with him. I would give him his favorite foods, cigarettes, whatever he requested. But I wouldn't spend money on him getting treatments because it's going to come anyways, you know? And if he's suffering, why would I want to elongate that process? That is my personal opinion. So that was number one. That was a little long-winded. Number two is contributions for family. So contributions in regards to if you have a poor family and they are unable to provide for themselves. So this would be like us providing for Shaha's mom and dad if his dad is unable to work that day, because people in the village often live from hand to mouth every day. So you go work, you get money, you buy dinner. You go work, you get money, you buy dinner. If you don't find work that day, then you don't have dinner. So that is a serious issue. And because of that, usually the children help provide for the parents. So that is the case with my husband. And sometimes, honestly, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around because I come from a culture where my parents helped me a lot. You know, my dad is a very successful accountant, and so he is able to help me whenever I need help. Do I rely on my dad? Absolutely not. But if I was in a serious situation and I couldn't feed me and my child or me and my family, my dad would be there, you know? So coming into a culture where the kids have to pay the parents is very strange to me, you know? And I understand the culture in the sense that the parents have sacrificed and helped pay for the child's schooling in hopes that that child will be successful and thus help them. Yes, I understand that, but I think that that is a big gamble. if you are really struggling to pay for food, then I think that maybe the best option would be to tell this child that they need to go get a job and save their money to go to school, or they need to find scholarships or do something along those lines in order to pay for their schooling, and not necessarily give them money in the hopes that you're like investing in their future so that they will give you money back. That's just my personal opinion, and I know the cultures are just different. So I am not complaining about anything in this video, just so you guys know. I'm just giving the differences so that you guys can understand what I have had to adjust to since I have come into this culture. So number 3 is being quiet about success. This has been a huge topic for discussion in our house recently. So this is anything successful. So if you build a house, if you buy land, if you get a new job, if you are pregnant and you tell people that you're pregnant, nobody tells people anything positive. If you get married, any of those things, nobody tells other people. There are literally cousins of my husband who have not even told him that they were pregnant until they had a baby. And then he went to their house and he was like, "Oh, is this your baby?" And they're like, "Yeah, she's 3 weeks old." You know, like, people don't express these happy things to anyone, including family. And that's just because a lot of people are struggling in the village. So they don't want this person to be like, "Oh, I'm having a baby," and then people are struggling to conceive, you know? Or they don't want to say, "Oh, I just bought land, I'm doing so well," while people can't feed their family dinner that night. You know, they, I guess, are being cognizant of the fact that other people are struggling. However, I still personally, maybe it's where I come from, maybe it's just my personal opinion, I don't agree with this, because I think that everybody should be able to rejoice in their happiness, you know? Be excited about the things that are going positive in their life. Are things going negative in their life sometimes? Yes. And should other people still be able to enjoy their happiness and their successes while somebody else is struggling? Yes. I think so, you know? Have I been in a position where I truly want to have a baby so bad, but yet I see other people getting pregnant on accident, or other people getting pregnant and saying, "I don't really want this baby, but I don't believe in abortion." You know, like, yes, I've been in that position. Am I still happy for people that are having babies? Yes, but inside, do I still feel like, I really hope I'm in that position soon? Yes, you know? So I think that just because somebody else is struggling doesn't mean it should suppress your happiness about positive things happening in your life. But that is definitely the case here in Kenya, and especially in the village. So there have been many situations that my husband has told me, or I have seen personally, where people are upset about other people's success. And I'm actually going to do a video on that very soon. So stay tuned for that video. Number 4 is celebrations and the process. So I explained a little bit about that already. So they usually come together once a week, and that is about 2 to 3 months before the event takes place. And so community members will come together, and then they will hear about the event and a marriage, or like graduation ceremony for college or something like that, and people will give their contributions. So you give 1,000 today, or you give 500 today, or whatever, and you continuously go to these meetings once a week. So you give whatever you can at each meeting, and then they collectively count the money to see how much they have, and thus what they can do for that celebration, you know? So in our case, when we had our welcome party / village wedding, it was difficult, because when people look at me, they see money, right? So they don't think that they need to participate in funding for a situation for Shaha or for myself, because we should have enough money to provide it all, right? And so that was definitely an issue for us, because I was told when we came here, like, "Oh, everybody contributes, and then, like, it's all good, and blah, blah, blah." And when I get here, that wasn't really the case. They had a certain budget that they wanted to accomplish, and they got about less than half of what they wanted for our welcome party. So we had to end up contributing a significant amount, like 150 US dollars, in order for us to have this successful wedding. And that kind of just like made me feel sad that it's not like a true sense of community in the fact that you don't treat people the same, right? Because you expect us to contribute to your marriage or your person's burial or whatever the case may be, but you don't feel the need to contribute to ours because you see me and you think money. So that was something that I struggled with understanding when I first got here. But I do understand the contribution aspect, and when it is done in a true and honest fashion, I think it is an awesome idea. But there are always going to be those people that are like, oh, like I don't need to contribute, everybody else is contributing, you know, and that kind of throws it off for everybody. So definitely a cultural difference, because there's no contributions in America. You pay for your own thing or you put it on credit. And the last one is being on, or as a whole, it's just cultural differences in regards to your in-laws, especially father-in-law. So my father-in-law, the first thing that was definitely strange to me was when he was like, Shaha went to go get him because he was walking home and it was going to take him a while to get home. And so Shaha was like, I'm going to go get my dad. I was like, I want to go with you, because sometimes I feel awkward in the village by myself because nobody else speaks English. So I wanted to go with him. And he was like, okay, like, let me call my dad and tell him that. And he calls his dad, and his dad's like, no, it's fine. I'll just walk then, because I can't be on the motorbike with her. That's like disrespectful to my son. So he thinks being in a car is fine, being together in a car, but being on a motorbike is not okay, because like it's too close in proximity to each other, and he wants to make sure that he gives that respect to his son, that I don't want to be this close to your wife, like that is your family, that is your wife, I don't want to disrespect your family dynamic, you know? So that was something that was definitely like, I don't know, like something that I wouldn't think about, because I'm on the motorbike with like a Boda Boda guy, somebody that you pay to ride the motorbike to go somewhere, right? And I don't ever think about like, oh, this is disrespectful to my husband, you know? But I guess if it's somebody that's like in my husband's family, they want to be like more courteous than a stranger. I don't know. It was something that like I don't think negatively or positively about. It was just something very different. And also going along with that is living together, which we have never come across this dynamic in our particular situation, but my husband mentioned this, that you will never live with your in-laws. So like if we built a house, my mother-in-law and father-in-law would never come live in that house. It doesn't matter how big the house is. It's just they want to respect our privacy, our dynamic in our relationship, so they would never want to interfere with that. So regardless of if it's a village home or if it's a modern home, they would never come live with us. So I never even thought about that until my husband mentioned it. But in America, you might live with, if we went to America, we would live with my mom or my dad for a period of time, you know, to get on our feet. But here, that is just never the case. So very different. So those are the 5 things that I had to mention about cultural difference and the adjustments that I've had to make since moving to America, or moving from America to Kenya. So I would love to hear your guys' opinion about these differences, how you would adjust to them, if you agree with my perspective or not, because remember, it's just my perspective, how I grew up to how my husband grew up, and the differences I've had to adapt to. So I would love to hear your comments in the comment section down below. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in our next video. Bye!